Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tales from the Core. Coming back with you, Dirty Mike Francis. That Peleliu name has seemed to stick quite well. And with me, none other than my 3'6", 200 brethren, Sir Neil of Pace.
Sir Neil of Pace.
Glad to have you back. Today, we haven't had anybody from the Air Force yet, right?
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah, the only flyboy we had was, Taco had us on his podcast. We haven't had anybody yet. So today's going to be pretty awesome, as the first ever that we're going to have on is World War II veteran, liberator, John Gleeson, who's joining us from Hawaii. So we're going to go ahead and bring John on and introduce him and hear his incredible stories from World War II, transitioning back to civilian life, and everything that he's been doing since. Let's bring him on and hear from him. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, pretty good.
Good. So first of all, just thank you for taking the time to being here so you can share your stories with us and everybody who's listening.
How many people out there are listening?
Well, I don't know yet because it's not live, but we do pretty well. We do pretty well. Especially we have a big veteran community. So we've shared a lot of tips for transitioning and the VA and working through things, volunteering, a lot of the things that you've done that's gotten you to where you are in life.
I've got a pretty interesting story that I don't think I've ever told about when I came back from Japan. I flew combat World War II, been shot at a few times, and then I re-enlisted because we weren't doing very well. My wife and we had 3 little girls, and so I re-enlisted. I was a staff sergeant. I was supposed to be a tech sergeant, but my pilot never got around to putting my name in. It was really a hard road to hoe. I had a lot of trouble. I finally went to a congressman in Reno, Nevada. We had moved to Reno, Nevada. And he got it straightened out. I've got a 10% disability, and I've had it now for, Charlie, I don't know how long. I'm 101 years old, and so time kind of gets away from me. And his name was Walter Bering, and he was somebody who was interested in you and whoever needed a problem solved. And he solved my problem. I got 10% disability, and we went on from there. There's things I told Tracy guys that I don't want to tell a wide audience because it's pretty personal.
Sure, we understand that.
I hope you understand that.
Of course.
I'll do the best I can to answer any question you've got. And if I say, well, we'll pass on that, honor that if you will.
Of course. So one question that we love to ask everybody that comes on is joining the military. So if we can hear a little bit about your childhood and your teenage years and joining the military, what that journey to the military looked like.
Well, that's a pretty easy one. We lived in Long Beach, California. We had very little. The family was poor. My father had a problem with alcohol, and on December the 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor, I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. I'd never known anything about travel because we never traveled. And the day after Pearl Harbor, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, "Let's go down and enlist." So I didn't have anything to do at the time, and so I said, "Okay." So we went down and enlisted. He flunked the physical. I didn't. I was pretty good shape. I had spent a few years in the CCCs. You probably haven't yet even heard of that. That is a government program that was really good back in those days. It was comprised of young men, 16, I don't know the actual parameters of it, but we fought forest fires, we built campgrounds, we planted trees, we worked in the forest, and we received $21 a month. How do I remember that? I don't know, but I do. $21 a month, and I bought a car. I bought a Ford Model B. It was a Model A frame. I started to say fuselage, but that's not right. And a V8 engine that was really fast. And so I was in the CCCs, and war was imminent. It was just something we saw coming. Even the young guys like me. I was a high school dropout. I never completed high school, and I wasn't good in math. I wanted to be a pilot. I am a pilot now. I've been a pilot since 1948. I fly gliders, and I've flown recently, and I'm going to take Tracy and I are going to go up and fly here in a couple of weeks. And the big shipyards in Long Beach, California, where I lived, was hiring everybody they could. And so they hired a bunch of us CCC cadets. And I was working as a laborer when they hit Pearl Harbor. And so, as I was saying, the next day I enlisted. And they shipped me to San Pedro, Fort MacArthur. How do I remember that? I don't know what I do. and then they sent me to radio school. And they were losing a lot of airplanes. And the war was really hot. And I flunked out of radio school. I just didn't like it at all. So they sent me back to St. Louis. And then they sent me to the Boeing School of Aeronautics. Yeah.
So was that
From there, Olga Noshkin. She was Russian. And she was a wild person. And so I was paying more attention to her than I was the Boeing School of Aeronautics. And so I flunked out of that.
So was that at Scott Air Force Base?
Say again.
Was that at Scott Air Force Base in St. Louis?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. I'm from St. Louis originally.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I was at Scott Air Force Base. And I can't remember the base they sent me to in San Bernardino, California. And I worked as I was a private first class, and that was about all the authority I had. But I worked on washing airplanes and fueling airplanes, and I never had anything really of substance to do. I was kind of an airplane janitor. And well, that was all right. I had a lot of fun, and I was in the service. I was at Indio Indio, California, and there I went with the sheriff's daughter. Well, that's another story. We won't talk about that one.
Well, real quick, John, you know what? For everybody who's going to be watching this and listening, um, John, he's talking about these ladies, but I'm going to share this. All right, look at this guy right here. Look at this guy. He's in case anybody didn't know, he's the reason the military implemented "Don't ask, don't tell." Yeah, I'm sure you had quite a few ladies chasing after you, also, John.
Well, you've heard of Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Okay, Steven Spielberg knows me. Now you think he's a big name. Well, when we were over in France, thanks to Tracy, we came across Steven. Tracy was with us with my daughter Colleen. I have three daughters: Colleen, Kathleen, and Maureen. And we'll cover that a little later if you want. But
okay,
we walked by Steven Spielberg and I just said, I danced with Betty Grable. And he said, you danced with Betty Grable? I said, yeah. I said, I was dancing with Betty Grable and I was arrested. and he said, you were? I said, yeah. So we know Steven Spielberg, don't we, Tracy? And, so it's a long story. My life is one long story, and there's a lot of it that's pretty darn personal. The picture you showed was my wife and I before we were married. Spent the summer on Belmont Shore outside of Long Beach, surfing and just having a great time. I drew. I think I'm back to $21 a month. So we didn't do an awful lot of things, but we had the ocean and we enjoyed ourselves. And my wife was very young when I met her, and I had to wait till she was 18 to get married. That was my choice, and so we got married. And we were married 75 years.
Gosh.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we got to ask the question.
Sure.
I was just on a cruise ship and we had a couple, 50 something years. They were both in their upper 80s. And they asked him, well, what's the secret to a long marriage like that? So I want to ask you, what's the secret to doing 75 years? How do you make that happen?
Well, we loved each other. Well, that's a big thing. And when I got out, it took me a while, but I did very, very well in business. Started a couple of companies. I started one company. There's a carbon copy of it in Hong Kong. And we'll get into that a little later if you want. And that's kind of like the question that I've been asked several times. And I'm going to be talking to a cruise ship here within a couple of weeks. It's interesting that you brought that up. I did very well. I went back to school. I went to community college in Sacramento, California, and I got a lot of engineering experience in it, and I took advantage of that, and we did very well. And I don't know, I've had the question, were you afraid when you walked up to your airplane knowing you were going to be shot at? And my honest answer is I was a little nervous, but was I afraid? No, I had a job to do and I did it. Did I get shot at? Yeah, we got shot at. I was flight engineer. We flew combat missions and the Germans shot at us, so we dropped bombs on them. And that's what war is. And you do your job. Well, you guys, I don't know what combat experience you guys have had, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we both actually were infantry Marines. I deployed to Afghanistan twice, Iraq once. And I did a lot with demolitions, with breaching, going into the houses. And I kind of joke with people when they ask if you're nervous whenever you're messing with explosives. And I said, well, the good thing with explosives is if I make a mistake, it's not my problem anymore.
Well, the situation I was in, if I make a mistake, I'm dead.
Right. Exactly. You don't got to worry about it anymore.
No. And I can remember one time we were going in on a bomb run and we had one of the bombs hang up. And I'm a flight engineer, and so I was kind of the head guy as far as the airplane went. And so I went back and tripped it loose. And I did it with a lot of hesitation because I didn't know what the thing was going to do. So I got it loose and we went ahead and bombed our target and went back. I flew single airplanes. We didn't ever fly formation at night. You've heard of the OSS?
Yes.
Okay. The OSS is how the CID, I'm forgetting something here. But it was very secret. We did very secret stuff. And I'll cover that a little bit later if you want. And was I afraid? No. And people look at me and they don't believe it. But you guys have been there and you know what it is. You do your job. And if there's anything attached to it, that doesn't matter. You do it anyway.
We got this another awesome picture.
Oh, yeah, that's my crew.
So which one are you?
Oh, Jamie, I'm on the bottom row I'm looking at it on the left.
On the far left.
I think
Tracy, you peek in here and give us a hand?
Yes, he is on the bottom far left. He's kneeling down with his arm on his leg and he's got a hat on. Yep, that's him.
Yeah, okay.
Right there, yeah.
There's John right there.
Chilling.
And this is right when they were either had just gotten back from
the war is over. We're going back. The pilot is right in the middle there. You see him.
Right here.
Captain Phillips.
Oh, Captain Phillips.
How do I remember that? I don't know.
I just watched that the other night. A little different story, though.
Name most of those guys there, and he chose me to fly back with him as the flight engineer. And the guys in the back were ground crew. Cooks, mechanics, and stuff like that. And
so, is this whole front row, or were all of you on the plane together?
All of us were on the plane together.
Wow.
We had a full airplane. We had a full load, and like I said, Captain Phillips chose me out of the engineers, the flight engineers that were in the squadron to fly back with him, and so we did. Yeah, that's me. I just kind of horsing around. How did we get these pictures?
I sent them. But that's not his original crew.
No.
That's the crew he came back with.
Exactly.
Bomber.
Wow.
And when we hit the mainland, I got a chocolate malt and a hamburger because I hadn't had chocolate malts or hamburgers for a long time.
So how long was it that you were gone?
Good question. I don't know. A lot of the missions that I flew are blanked out. I have no memory of them at all. But they're on my records that I flew missions, combat missions. And that's before I started flying missions. And I was just a young guy then.
That's a great picture. That's a great picture.
Hey, I asked a question.
Yes, sir.
Pretty good looking.
Right.
I don't know the time restraints you have, but one day the office, one of the people in the office came into my tent where I was in my crew. I was with my crew, and they said, "Come with us. We're sending you to London to get a passport." And I said, "Okay." And so they sent me to London. I got a passport. I have a copy of it, and I know where the original is. So anybody that doubts this story, lay some money down on the desk, and we'll cover it. And I have a carbon copy of my passport. On my passport, I am shown as a Swedish airline employee. To come into a warehouse, they said, "Pick out what you want to wear, civilian clothes." That sounds like one of these whodunit kind of things, but this is what happened. And so I picked out civilian clothes, and they sent me up to Scotland to a base there in Scotland, an OSS base. They flew nothing but OSS missions. And the OSS was involved in flying fuel behind the German lines on the continent to help the people there that were fighting the Germans. And what we were doing, we were flying from Scotland up to Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, and we had these packages. They took all the insignias off the airplane. None of us had uniforms on, which if we made emergency landing, they would have shot us as spies. And they had all these boxes in the bomb bay. They were all marked Red Cross. I found out later, and I've got proof of this. So I've got proof of all of this. And I found out later that these boxes with Red Cross on them were guns, ammunition, explosives for the Norwegian underground.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Man.
And
Wow.
I keep saying I have this proof, so anybody that doubts it, lay your money on the table and we'll get it.
I'll broker those bets. We'll take that money.
And the original passport, you'll have a little stretch on this one too. The original passport is on a museum in Stockholm, Sweden. I got to know a reporter there, and we became pretty good friends. He was a reporter that traveled with the King and the Queen of Sweden.
Oh, wow.
And he's the one that asked me for my original passport. He said, "John," he said, "can I have that for a museum here in Stockholm?" I said, sure. But I said, let me make a copy of it, which I've got a copy over here on the desk.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any doubts about it, pull it out and look at it.
Oh man,
That's pretty awesome.
that is cool.
And we flew these missions into Stockholm. I had a guy question me once, Stockholm, tell me something about Stockholm. I said, okay. There's a restaurant in Stockholm called Burns, Berns. Look it up on your cell phone. They have an orchestra playing for lunch. Pretty high class.
Yeah, yeah.
A very unusual thing. This was years before we had credit cards here, but I had a credit card from the Swedish Airline Association that allowed me to buy anything I wanted, food-wise, and they would pay for it. Pretty unusual.
That cover drinks or just food? That cover your drinks too?
I was going to copy that. I did a little drinking. Have you ever had chocolate schnapps?
I've had a chocolate martini, I think, before. I don't know if I've ever had
Oh,
chocolate
that's good.
schnapps.
It's really good. Ran into, I believe, I have no proof of this, I believe a German SS guy. We were staying in a condominium. The first mission we flew, we stayed at the Intercontinental Hotel. They treated us really well. And this guy came out and started talking to us. We had our parachute and our Mae West and stuff out in the hallway waiting for our car to come. And he came out and started talking to us and offered us chocolate schnapps. I had a couple of them and really good stuff. And then we went out to this is up the Bromma Airport is the airport in Stockholm, Sweden, that is still in operation. And they're the airport we flew into, civilian airport. And we would park our airplane way off from all the tourist businesses. Sweden is a lovely place. We visited that. We were a guest of the city of Västerås here just a few years ago, my wife and I. And while in Västerås, the Concorde, I'm talking too much. Why don't you ask some questions and we'll get into that?
Well, this is what we do. Your story, everything that you've done, we love to record this, and this gets saved.
Mhm.
And so generations to come can hear these stories. And if you don't share them and you don't tell them and nobody records them, then they don't really get to live on forever. So for us, this is what we do. We love what we do. We love guys like you to share our lineage, right? Everything that you guys did. If you wouldn't have done everything that you all did, then we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be able to do what we did. And oftentimes I refer to standing on the shoulders of giants, and you are the giants that came before us. So I know Neil and I, it's just an honor and a privilege to hear your stories and for you to take time out of your Saturday to come talk with us and share.
Well, one of the things, because I talk at the museum here, the Aviation Museum here, on Wednesdays and Sunday afternoons, and Tracy has helped set that up. And people ask me questions about this. Would you do it again? Bet your life. We would not be speaking the languages that we speak here if we hadn't have done what we did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
And I think maybe one of the reasons that you're not getting those questions from Neil and I is because we already know the answer to that. You know, I had a family reunion I went to, and they were asking me what it was like being in the Marine Corps. And I said, oh, it was horrible. Everything we experienced is like the worst 4 years of my life. You know, all the little micromanaging and this and that and so on and so forth. And so then they said something. They're like, so you wouldn't go back and do it again? I was like, oh, what a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'd go do it again.
Yeah.
You meet the greatest people. And yeah, I mean, war, we all three of us sitting here, we know what war is like. We don't have to, you know, but it's the people, it's the experiences. And, you know, like you said, guys like you guys didn't just fight for the freedom of this country. You guys fought literally for the freedom of the world.
Yes.
The world. Like you guys fought for the world. You saved the world. There's no,
True.
you know, it's just the coolest thing ever. It's,
Yes.
you know, just to be able to talk with you guys is such an absolute honor.
You know, I'm signed up to do a parachute jump in March. It's Tracy. Tracy's going out first, and I'm going out next. It's a tandem jump, so I'm not jumping alone. But
Right.
if I could, I'd jump alone. But I can't because I'm pretty crippled up, and so I've got to go out with another guy. But it's still going to be a parachute jump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
101 and change, or 100 and change. Or what am I saying?
You're 101.
So, question.
I got
Neil.
I got one. So like we talk about the greatest generation, and there's no doubt about that. You know, you guys are the greatest generation, and it had to take some, and like we just said, you guys saved the world. It had to take some very, very tough and resilient kids to take something on like that. I always wondered, was part of that what made you guys so just tough and gritty and able to do these things on two massive fronts, the European front, the Pacific front? Was part of that coming up during the Depression? Was life almost better in the military? You got 3 squares a day, you got shelter, you know.
No, that had nothing to do with it. I'm going to tell you a story that nobody else knows. Well, Tracy knows. When D-Day happened, when France was invaded and they chased the Germans out, and we bombed them. I was doing my job as an aviation janitor, and I heard it on the railroad or on the radio, on the radio about the invasion of France, and that all of the guys that were lost there. For example, the cemetery for the Americans have 99,000 American crosses. I wasn't able to walk down through them, but I was sitting with another girlfriend, and I was listening to this invasion, and I thought to myself, I'm tired of being a janitor. I want to get into combat. And so I went back to my base and I went to the CO and said, I'd like to be transferred to aerial gunner school because they're losing a lot of airplanes and heavy losses. And he said, no, I'm not going to send you. Well, there's a thing called the military has ombudsman. You know what ombudsmen are. There's somebody that come in and try to help you out. Well, we had an ombudsman come through our unit, and I went to see him. I said, they won't send me, and I want to go. I want to fly. I want to get in combat. He said, okay. A week later, I was on my way to gunnery school, Tyndall Field, Florida. You can look that up. I graduated from there. You'll love this part. And as soon as I graduated because I wanted to go. And that wasn't real smart on my part, but that's how I felt. And then they sent me up to Chatham Field, Georgia. You can look that up. And they made me flight engineer because I had flunked out of the Boeing School of Aeronautics. Now that doesn't make much sense, does it? But I was engineer.
They heard it was because of Olga, right?
Well, the first flight we flew as a group, we caught on fire.
Jeez.
We came back and made an emergency landing at Chatham Field, Georgia. We tore the runway up because of some of the stuff that we didn't do that we should have. And then they moved us on to New York. We picked up a brand new airplane and flew it over. We landed in Nova Scotia. We landed in Iceland, and then Europe. And that's another story. Then we started flying combat. The first combat mission we flew, the Germans had captured a submarine base in France. And they were sinking ships coming across the English Channel. And we went down to bomb them. And that was my first experience of being shot at. Somebody wanted to kill us. And we didn't allow that to happen. And so we bombed the submarine camp. And from there on out, we did other bombings until they came and got me and sent me to Sweden. Questions?
Yeah. So you have Don Graves. He was talking when we were in Texas how he served with a Marine from World War I who was in Bella Wood. Did you have the opportunity to serve with veterans from World War I?
No.
No?
No, we were all young. The oldest guy on the airplane was the pilot, Sam Webb. And he was 23 or 24.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
We had teenagers. They were 19 years old flying. So no, I had no experience. And the way they treated me, after we got out, Tracy and I talked a little bit about this before we got you guys on, was terrible. And Tracy told me what you guys do with people getting out of the service. I don't quite know what to do, and life is hard, and life was hard for us. But I succeeded. I was in sales. I was in engineering sales, and I did really good. And we succeeded.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up because that's something I wanted to ask. You know, VE and VJ Day were huge celebrations. And, you know, obviously in the past 10, 20 years, there's been so much to honor and you recognize you guys. What was it like between the end of the war and then up until the past 10 years or so for World War II veterans like yourself? Like, because I almost feel, I don't know, I'm only 40. I was born in 84. But I feel like you guys were kind of forgotten because you had Korea, and then you had Vietnam, then you had the Gulf War. And I feel like it wasn't until they started doing those honor flights back around 2005, 2008, something like that, that people actually started caring about you guys again. Is that accurate?
Pretty darn accurate. when I went to when my daughter and I went to France, Tracy called me. I was appointed as a director of the Aviation Museum here in Hawaii, and I was part of the Aviation Museum as a director. And I received this call from Tracy asking me if I wanted to go to France, and I thought it was some goofy call, and I don't think I was very nice, was I? I was nice. I was polite, and we had never met. Had we met? No. Okay, we had never met, and then I thought she was full of baloney. Who's going to send my daughter and I to France? First class, flew in a 787. First class accommodations for me. My daughter had to sit and coach, and everything was paid. We stayed at the Hilton. It was I have one word for this trip to Paris: fantastic. Nothing. I've never done anything to equal it. I've been to Paris with that's another story. My wife and I traveled a lot because I did really very well in thermal engineering sales. And did I ever get any help from any of the function, or any of the military? No, I never got one iota of help from anybody. I never went to the VA because it was a joke to go to the VA at that time. It's changed, and you guys are changing it.
Yeah.
But the VA was a joke. I was
Yeah.
turned down. I was turned down to the VA for a 10% disability.
That's crazy.
It is
It's crazy.
I was turned down by a doctor that interviewed me about 5 minutes. That's another story. I've got a bunch of them.
You got Neil's keeping notes, right, of all these other stories.
Man. And you know what? Like, you don't have to worry about talking too much, John. Mike and I'll sit here all day. We'll sit here all day and listen to you. Love it.
You know, it's funny about Tracy is, yeah, Tracy kind of, I guess she's got a pretty good track record of taking military vets. We didn't get to go to Paris though, Tracy.
She's got an excellent track record. I live in an assisted living facility. They have a bereavement division here. You guys sound like you're kind of on the edge of a bereavement. The bereavement lady that's in charge here, we're good friends. And she told me when she first met me, I was not doing real well. And you obviously are dealing with the guys that aren't doing real well. And there's a bunch of us. Well, I'm no longer in that category, but there's a bunch of them. And you guys are doing something that should have been done and could have been done years ago. Good on you.
Really, I mean, it's really like it's really like anything that we can do, right? You know, Mike, John, I mean, anything that we can do to put it out there. It's like there's no you don't have to worry anymore about the whole stigma, because for so long it was yeah, you better not go get seen for any kind of issue, or don't go get help, or you'll be looked at this way or that way, or no, you're just supposed to bury it. And it's not like that, and it should have never been that way.
No, you just deal with it. Guys like you and I and some guys can deal with it. I didn't deal with it well, but I became a success in the civilian field. And so we did well. But when my wife died, I was a basket case. And you guys are going to face, if you haven't already, you will face it. Guys like me coming out of the service, their marriage goes to pot, and it's tough. It's really tough. And and you guys work with them because they need help. End of story.
That's what we're here trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, through this podcast and one of the great things that stories such as yours, we've actually helped a lot of veterans. They had a lot of this. You've heard the stories about the VA, how it's a joke. One of the Marines we served with has helped numerous Marines get an increase from 10% to 80, 30% to 80. We've got a Marine that just helped somebody get into a facility who needed some help. We had a fund together to help, somebody lost their job. Like we could help pay the electric bill. We could help pay for gas for them to get to their new job. And that's what it's about. It's the brotherhood and getting together like this and talking and being there for one another. Cause it's for life. That's the way that we look at it is, we're brothers for life.
Like I said, good on you guys. Keep it up because there's guys that really need to talk to somebody. And for years, I had nobody to talk to. And when I got in here, well, I had somebody to talk to.
So when did you get to where you're at now? When did you move there?
About 3 years ago.
Okay.
Right after my wife died, I fell and broke my hip. And my family all lives on the mainland. My daughter Colleen and my other daughter Kathleen. My younger daughter has died, and they needed to put me someplace. It's very expensive, and but they're very good. And I was talking to Monica, the lady that runs the bereavement, and she said, when I met you, she said, you were a basket case. I didn't remember that, but I was mad at everybody. Don't tell me what to do kind of attitude. I'm a tough old Irishman. And I don't change too easy, but I changed. And I'm better. And Tracy has come into my life, which just changed my life altogether. Would I ever thought of parachuting again? I've jumped before. No, I would never thought about it. Well, Tracy brought it up. Let's do it. We're going to do it, right, Tracy? Yeah, okay.
So
Dallas.
Is there?
In Dallas?
We're both in Florida.
Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, I was saying you can come up and watch if you want.
What, Tracy? When is that?
We're looking at March when Liberty Jump Team has their. Okay. When Liberty Jump Team has their.
Well, they'd rather look at you than me anyway.
Liberty Jump Team does their basic airborne course in March. So we're gonna go out there with them and do that probably at the end of their week when they do their graduations.
What are the dates? What is the time frame?
I think it's the second week of March. I have to confirm though.
Okay. I'd love to meet you, John. As far as I know, I don't have anything going on that second. No cruises booked. All right. So I should be able to make it and come up there and meet with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, you can come and jump with us if you want.
Oh, yeah.
So in the sandals, in the flops, and the shorts.
So funny, quick little story. one of my clients was this guy named Guy Manis, and he was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double for skydiving. And he's part of numerous skydiving world records. And so he invited me to that indoor skydiving, the iDive or iFly. And it was fun. And so he's like, all right, the next thing we have to do is get you out of a real plane. And I'm down. I'm down to do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we need to work. Well, Tracy knows what to do. Can you work that out?
So,
Okay,
I
okay,
think so. We'll work it out.
okay.
And I don't know if you guys know, but I've got to brag on him. At 101, John helped start the aviation museum, but how inspiring he's been to so many people this last year as he goes out there twice a week. And, you know, I told him if I were to visit that museum, I may not remember any of the airplanes that I saw or, you know, things like that, but I would remember meeting him. And you just take so much time with people and you see the kids just light up when they get to hear his stories. And so he's really inspiring, you know, to people of all different ages, and just has changed my life and changed many lives out here in Hawaii and beyond.
Well, I mean, it's such an incredible gift for us to still have people like John around to share his stories, because we need those. It's important. What you guys did is important. Everything that you overcame is important, and that needs to be passed down. So it's incredible what you're doing.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. I just like doing things that mean something, that maybe changes a life. I've got several guys that let me tell you a story. I ran a glider program. I still fly gliders. I flew glider a couple of 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, okay. So I still fly glider. But one of the cadets, female cadets that I flew, she was really good. And the females have a lighter touch on controls. And glider flying takes a light touch on fuel to fly. And she's now flying heavies for United Airlines.
Wow.
Oh man.
And I've got more than one. I've got more than one of those. I've got a very good friend of mine who was a medical student, had total recall at the University of Honolulu, of Hawaii. He now is a check pilot for the Air Guard, flying the C-17, the big freighter. He's also a captain instructor for Hawaiian Airlines, their heavies. And I can see some of my successes, and that's a good feeling.
You know, it's
Difference.
guys like us. It's like we have to have purpose. And I try to stress that to a lot of guys that maybe are kind of going through tough times, is to find that purpose, whatever it is, and volunteering, helping others. That's one of the greatest purposes anybody can have. So 101, you know, there's no excuse. John's out here doing it. He's going to jump out of a plane. There's no excuse for anybody else, you know, and we always encourage everybody, you know, reach out if you want to know how to get started, or if you're in a dark place, if you're in tough times. There's so many of us that are here, and we'll get through it together. We'll find some purpose. We'll find some things to get involved in and be a part of, and make life better, not for ourselves, but for others too.
Let me make a quick suggestion. Take a look in your area and see if the Catholics have any programs in the area that you're in. If they do, check in with them.
Okay.
That'd be a real advantage for you. It would help them, and it would help a lot of guys. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, there's so many great things. I got to have lunch with a guy. He's not military, but he works in Broward County, which is around Fort Lauderdale. And according to their numbers, there are no homeless veterans in Broward County.
Really.
They've helped get them all homed off the streets, and it's a great organization he's a part of. We're going to have him on here as well. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work that we need to keep doing.
And it's going to continue too.
Yes, sir. Well, we can't thank you guys enough. Have you eaten yet, or are you eating after this?
We've got pastries and coffee we're taking care of.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you so much for your time, John, and for your service. Like,
Yeah.
You guys are, God, you guys are amazing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
So,
Okay.
You good?
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for having John. We'll keep you posted on all his wild adventures.
Yes,
yeah,
please,
we'll we'll do like a episode update of the wild adventures John is on, and then we're gonna have a video of us all jumping, I guess, out of an airplane in March.
Yeah.
So,
All right, guys.
all right, guys. Thank you again. Thanks, John.
Anybody here?
Oh man, that was incredible, man.
It was fucking awesome,
dude. Leave it to old fucking salty World War II vet to bring out the bitch eyes.
Yeah, I saw the bitch eyes over there, man.
Listen, man, you know what? God, like so many people, like, thanks for doing what you guys are doing, this, that, and the other thing. But like, God, dude, to get it from somebody like him, like that's what got me. It's like, dude, you got a guy like him, thank you guys for what you're doing. Like, Jesus, man. Like that, like achievement unlocked,
Yeah, man.
God, dude.
Yeah. I don't know, man, but like speechless, dude. I'm just like, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. We'll get to hang with him, literally hang from parachutes in March. And we'll make sure we record that. And of course, we'll have a follow-up podcast to that. And then, get you or Tracy, somebody get in touch with Matt so we can do a follow-up to that Veterans Day, Marine Corps birthday in Dallas and hear all about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a great experience as well.
So, all right, man. Well, everybody, thank you. Hey, we're putting these on YouTube. You asked for it. They're on YouTube now. You can watch us get bitch eyes. You don't just have to hear about it anymore on Spotify and iTunes. Yeah, you can see it as it's happening in real, almost real time. And yeah, obviously subscribe, like, share, especially this one, especially just the stories from a World War II veteran, 101 years old, not just alive, but like thriving.
Yeah.
Living,
making a difference in people's lives, man.
Yeah. Living fucking life, helping others. John Gleeson, freaking absolute hero. Yeah, so thankful to have the opportunity to talk to somebody like him. So share this stuff, follow for more. We're going to get some more incredible people on here. Like John, hear some more great stories, get Don on here, hear about that Bellawood Marine. Like dude, I'm just like, yeah, I got my sights on that shit.
Directly. Like that's just as direct as it gets to a World War I fellow Bellawoodsman.
This is good. This is as close as we can come, man. And I mean, Iwo Jima veteran who served with the Bella. Like, Jesus Christ, dude! It just doesn't even get better than that. And like, he was there. Like, somebody was showing a video. I don't know if they did it in Dallas or when they recently did it, but I saw a clip where he was they were like, "Were you there? Did you see the flag go up?" And he was like, "Yeah, I was there." You know, like
Yeah.
so
Oh,
we're
yeah. There.
yeah, I was there. You know, and then then it's funny because he always says he's always like, because we're prepared, because I've heard it twice now when he's like, "Yeah, do you know what the mast was made out of? Drainage pipe."
Drain pipes. Yeah. we know now, man.
We pay attention, Don. We take notes. So
note
all right,
taking
man.
here.
Well, appreciate you, brother, as always, and to all of everybody who supports us doing our thing. You know, we'll keep doing our thing, and until next time, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.